This month marks my 4-year anniversary with using the amazing Nikon D7200. So 4 years of active duty. So I'm going to give you my update on my views and opinions about how I feel about using this amazing camera. After 4 years, I find this camera to be still fantastic. There's a lot of features that I want to go over with you. Actually, just some of the key features that I like. And there's going to be a few things that I wish this camera had. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. But first of all, the Nikon D7200 with its 24 megapixel CMOS APS-C sensor is, to me, way more than adequate for what I need. It also works very well with as far as the battery life goes, which is super good for when you're doing weddings. You don't want to be changing batteries all the time. So it's about over 1,100 shots per battery charge. And 6 frames per second. To me, for weddings and portraits, that's enough. Certain shooters, if you're doing sports or a lot of activity shots, you may need more. But to me, for weddings and portraits and some commercial shoots, that's still way more than adequate. And it also has a maximum shutter speed of 1/8,000th of a second. And let's look at the video. With video, it does HD, high definition video, not 4K, which to me is okay because once I got this camera, I started using this for all my YouTube videos and also on my courses that I make for Udemy, and it works out very, very well. If I really needed to do a whole lot more video and maybe more professional video, I would consider another camera like possibly the mirrorless Nikon Z6 or Z7. I do really like the Z6, by the way. But getting back to the D7200, currently it starts at about $700, brand new. If you can find it brand new, it's a great deal. And I saw one yesterday. I was looking on B&H, has one used for about I think it was a little less than $600. So for a great camera, that's going to really give you the potential. It's going to give you great images at a super good price. So let's look at some of the things that I wish it had. Of course, Nikon was smart because they only give a certain camera so many features. If you want more features, then you have to upgrade. And you can't blame them for that. So the only thing I miss about the D7200 is I wish it had an articulating touch screen. Once I started using that on some of the other cameras, I really got to enjoy using that, and it just makes your job so much easier, especially if you're shooting down, you're aiming upwards, or you have the camera up really high. You can just focus real quick with a touch, and I really do like that. And I also wish it had a little faster buffer. It's just a little bit slower, but that's not a big deal for the type of photography that I use it for. So anybody looking to get great image quality out of this camera at that price, I think it's a great deal. Now, especially if you're doing wedding photography. First of all, for wedding photography, this camera does have a dual card slot, which some people say you don't need it, it's no big deal, and that's true. That is true. It's no big deal until the one memory card fails, or your card slot fails, or you lose a memory card. Not a big deal. Unless you're doing a wedding and there's no way, or any kind of assignment that's a once in a lifetime thing, it's no way of getting those images back. So now that I am retired now from wedding photography, having the 2 card slots to me isn't all that important because, to be honest with you, through the years, I've only had 1 card fail. And this was in the early days of electronic imaging. And I probably could have had that card sent out and had those images retrieved on there. But it was just a personal shoot. It wasn't that important. So I didn't use that card. anymore, to say the least. But it is important. It's having those dual card slots, to me, was always a good insurance policy with, in wedding photography. So I do want to mention, I saw this episode twice already on the People's Court. A bride and groom sued their photographer who was supposed to come up with so many images, give them a certain type of an album that they wanted. And as it turned out, they only got a fraction or part of the images that you would actually cover on the full wedding. And as it turned out, the photographer lost a memory card. So it does happen, and don't let it happen to you. So, but anyway, it is and this camera is really especially great for wedding photography. For other reasons, say for instance, usually when I would do a wedding, I would use 3 or 4 camera bodies instead of changing lenses all the time, because I hate changing lenses. So I would just grab a body. And so as a wedding photographer at that price, you could possibly use 2, 3, possibly 4 camera bodies with all different lenses on. Of course, starting out, you want to keep, your cost minimum. So you may just want to get 2 bodies, and this will be a great opportunity. And for your wedding album size, this camera is fantastic. So this camera does have the capability of producing super sharp images, as long as you're going to be using a good quality lens on there, whether it's Nikon or a third-party lens. So let's take a look at a few images that I've used this camera for. I've used the D7200 for quite a few family portraits of all different kinds, taken in all different seasons, very cold days, super hot days. And I've used it on a lot of individual portraits, and especially on headshots, both indoors and outdoors. I've used it at so many different ISOs. It has amazing ISO capability. And the D7200 was also one of the cameras that I used when I photographed my last wedding. Before retiring from wedding photography, I've also used it for small product photography. And if you want to get super sharp images with this camera body, use a super sharp, high quality lens. Whether it's Nikon or one of the top quality third-party lenses, you're going to get super sharp images. Watch as we zoom in here on this particular image. You can practically count every hair here. So who's this camera for? Again, it's for photo enthusiasts who are on a budget but want high quality images. It's also great for the wedding photographer who wants to use several camera bodies on the wedding. And at that price, it's hard to beat. And one of the advantages of using the camera for several years is that you really get to know the camera. You become so familiar with the buttons, with the menu. If something happens, you accidentally were to hit a wrong button, you know where to go to correct that situation. So that's another benefit. Get to know your camera body. So that's my take after 4 years with the amazing Nikon D7200. So do I lust after another camera body? Well, perhaps. I've got my eye on the Nikon mirrorless. I like the Z6 and Z7, although 1 card slot. And since I'm retired from wedding photography, I wouldn't feel so bad using that particular camera. But more than likely, I think in the future they're probably going to add another card slot to it. But I've heard so many good things about that camera. And even though if I do get that particular full-frame mirrorless camera body like the Z6, I would still want to hang on to my APS-C size sensor camera like the D7200. And it's served me well all these years, and I hope it continues. Thank you very much.